Just making sure it was on. Alright, welcome back. And I finished up the handle piece, and I thought of one thing I should probably mention is that I added a 1/4 inch seam allowance to the sides, and actually I continued my seam. So for example, with number 6, I continued sewing beyond that line all the way to the edge of the block, just so that these little pieces weren't kind of flapping halfway off. So you can do that if you want. And then after I had finished, I trimmed everything with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. It's drawn in right here, but if the paper was gone, you would see that it's 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that's what the paper looks like, and that's what the back of the paper looks like. All of the fabrics are you see the right side of the fabric on the back of the page. So this will end up looking backwards than the picture. I don't know of any other way to do that, to sew it a different way. So that's just how it's going to be. So now we'll start working on the mug piece. And so what I'm going to do first is place the fabric for the number 1 piece. Now in her picture she has a striped mug. You can do that very simply just by making the stripes or whatever shape you want, and then placing this on top of it. So I'm going to be using this blue flowered fabric, and I'm just going to hold it up to the light to see the flower placement that I want. I kind of want some of the red flowers to be in the mug. So I know I'm being picky. I probably should have done like a little practice one, but okay, that looks good. But I didn't, so this is real life trial and error. And oh, then I did not even. I want the fabric to be face down, so the wrong side is facing the paper. So now I have to look at it again. Golly. Sorry, this is taking a long time. This is the part that always takes me the longest, picking the fabrics. Okay, that looks good there. So my fabric is wrong side of the fabric to the wrong side of the paper, and I'm going to pin it just because I want to make sure that it stays in place. And the first seam that I'm going to sew, after looking at this, I think I'm going to be sewing this handle piece right to this edge. And so what I'm going to do for that is place them right sides together. Actually, I'm going to trim this to a 1/4 inch and then place them right side together. Again. Okay, so it's trimmed, and this has a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so I'm going to be putting the right side of the mug handle to the right side here, and I'm just going to be matching up. Some of the major points are the edge of that handle and then the tip down there, and so I want them to match exactly. And luckily I have a bright light that I can kind of see through the papers. If you don't, a good way to do that would be to grab a pin, and you can put it right through a point, let's say a line that you want to match up, and then kind of scoot it along until it is where you would like it to be. So, let's see, I want it to be right there. Normally it goes better than that. But kind of scoot it along until it matches. And then any other major intersections like this point right here, just put the pin in and then match it to the place where you want it to go. And if you want, you can bring it through, but once you have it matched, it shouldn't matter too much. And then you're just going to be sewing right alongside the edge of the paper all the way through through the point, to the point, and through the seam allowance on the outside of the block. And then you'll just trim your threads. And then on the back side you should see that your mug handle has been attached like so. And if you want, you could remove the paper. I don't think I recommend that at this point. So there's going to be a little tricky part right at the point. I'm just going to kind of tuck the fabric. Yikes, I should have trimmed it more. I'm going to tuck it here, and then what I'm going to do is put in this piece number 8. So just kind of finger press it. If you want to really teach it a lesson, show it its place, you can kind of pin the seam allowance down, or head over to your pressing board and just give it a little press. Probably not with steam because there's paper involved. But I'm going to be piecing this number 8. So again, if you remember kind of our sequence, we were folding first and then trimming. Well, that's where it gets kind of tricky. I probably should have done a trial of this, but I didn't. So we're problem solving here. So I'm going to trimming. And then we're just going to place, I got a little straight thread here. We're just going to place a generous sized piece. Make sure again that it's 1/4 inch larger on all sides than the piece you want to cover. So that looks big enough. We're going to match the raw edges with the side we just cut. And if you're a control freak, or if you want to be extra sure it's staying in place, just give it a little pin. And then we're just going to be sewing right on the line from 4 to 8, and there's also a little part from 1 to 8, but you're just going to be sewing right along that entire little line. Just snipping a little bit. There's kind of a tricky corner, which you're probably seeing. And so, again, your fabrics are right side together, sew from the paper side. Take your pins out and snip your threads. And then just finger press that. It should lay pretty nicely after you finger press it. And there is that piece. It looks like there's a teeny little funky piece, which I'm just going to clip right to the corner, just so that it will lay flat when I press it. That part wasn't thought out so great, but never fear, because everything is going to be okay. Now we're just going to keep working in number order. We just did number 8. Now we're going to do piece number 9. So again, we'll keep with our little theme. We fold, then we trim just 1/4 inch past the fold line. And you might be able to see through your paper to see where to go. And I'm actually gonna fold and trim the next piece also, just to get rid of this big chunk here. I missed a thread. Alright, so now we're going to be doing piece number 9. As you can see, it's pretty much the smallest piece on the whole paper. So we're just going to line up the raw edge, make sure that it's going to cover that piece completely, which this one will. And put your right sides together, so right along the line. And finger press that little teeny piece, and it should lay pretty flat, or at least flat enough. And so we did 8, 9, the next piece is 10, this large chunk right here. I've already trimmed it. I think I'll just use this piece of fabric. Again, I just kind of held them up to the light, make sure they're generously bigger. It's much easier to trim a piece than it is to go back and rip out stitches. And fold it back. Oh, it's coming together so nicely. I'm excited to see what it'll look like. And the next piece, we just did piece number 10, is going to be piece number 11. So again, we'll just fold it. Oops, this piece was not laying flat. I might have to take this one to the pressing board and teach it a lesson. Alright, I will be back.